Welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast for fans of the Detroit Lions, football in general, Detroit sports in general. My name is Demetrius. As always, we nod the Godfather, Mr. Mike Ward, super producer extraordinaire, the kickoff of year 7 of the podcast. And it is not a good one. The Lions were in Green Bay this week to open the season against the Packers. And so I tried to think about a couple people hit me up as the game was ending. There's always those people who believe that I won't do the podcast when they lose or when they play poorly. So I always get you still doing the podcast? Well, yeah, I'm still doing the podcast for a lot of reasons. One, remember the title. Remember who I am. If you watch, and I've got those key people that always support me. Shout out to Deanna, who's always here, and I don't acknowledge her enough. Very supportive with good questions and good thoughts. And, you got the people who know me, right? Who know, my brother, and I shout them out here. So they know I'm doing the podcast no matter what. And so when I look, if you expect to come here today and hear me make excuses, nope, I am not doing that. The better team won the game today, period. There's no excuse. We're going to talk about it, right? I'll give you my thoughts on kind of high level. We'll talk about key moments of the game, moments in the game. I always think that's important because I'm one of those people who believes that there are moments in the first quarter that change the game. There are moments in the third quarter that change the game, could change the game. But I'm also very realistic, and I'm generally despite the title of the podcast, I see what I see. Y'all watch the game. You saw what you saw, right? Right now, the Packers are a better football team. Sorry, this is interactive podcast, by the way. So if somebody chimes in, like my friend Andy, and just says, what a shit show, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. I cannot dispute it. I can't debate it. I can't make up reasons. I will talk about, as Andy put it, that shit show and why I think it was what it was. I appreciate your support, Andy, big time. So I will talk about but remember the name of the podcast. I'm just not the guy who thinks the sky's falling. So you're gonna get this is one game. I'm not super concerned. I'll tell you what I am concerned about, and there's a few things, but for the most part, right off the top, high level, no, I'm not that worried because I'm just not inherently inclined to form an opinion on a single data point. It's just not me. I work in quality. I work in stats, and that's just not it for me. So I can get it. And if you're a person who wants that or needs that, there's a radio show tomorrow you can listen to, and they will give you all you need. They'll tell you the sky's falling. Somebody's going to call in and say the Lions are going 7-9 and not realize that they actually play 17 games. So you're going to get all that tomorrow. You're going to get show hosts that are going to try and tap into your fear and say, oh, this is who they are. And you're going to get the ones who were just going to do the whole, you're going to get Ben Johnson, a lot of Ben Johnson, right? Because I'll get more into my thoughts on the offense today. Andy makes another great point. What we know for sure is that this team was built around the offensive line. And I'm not patting myself on the back, particularly not after a game 1 loss to Green Bay. But there was a podcast middle of last year where I did the most important players. And I said on that podcast that the most important player on the team was Frank Ragnow. Now, I will tell you, cornbread and Kool-Aid, that's who this is. That's who I am. That's what this is. They will get better. I firmly believe the offensive line just playing together will get better. And I think that, so today I'm going to do some high level, then we're going to talk about the game, and then I'm going to take 3 questions like we normally do. So we might go through this fast, depending on if I jump down a rabbit hole, and we all know there's always a chance of that. I think that the better team won today. Just so there are people who I know and who I love that happen to be Green Bay Packer fans. They will want to talk about this, right? They won't mock me or make fun. Well, Chris might. No, I don't know. But some of them, they would just want to know how I feel about it, right? The better team won today. And when I say that, The gap between the Lions and the Packers is not big enough, is not good enough for us to come out as slow as we did, rusty, right? For us to make the mistakes. The one golf throw was all on him. It was a bad decision and a bad throw. We had 2 other opportunities later to get back in the game. We literally dropped them. Penalty and a drop. Anzalone's dropped interception was massive. It gives us the ball deep in their territory in a game that's, I want to say, 17-6 at the time. That kind of, you can't do that. They had no turnovers. Their penalties weren't that costly. The word stale, as Andy points out, is a good one. We were just flat, no energy. And Kenny and I had talked about guys not playing in the preseason. Is there anything real to that? And I wasn't sure. I maybe didn't believe it before, but now I think it has legs, right? There's at least a degree of conversation that maybe needs to go around the value in playing guys in preseason. But the reality is one team showed up today with energy right off the rip. One team didn't make a bunch of mistakes today and executed well. One team didn't turn the ball over. One team schemed really smart. They were getting the ball out of his hands fast, so we couldn't get pressure. They were using a lot of motion, which confused some of our newer guys, including possibly our new coordinator. They did a lot of things right. They had creativity in their offense. They mitigated our ability to put pressure. They converted third downs. They converted every third down, it feels like. So when one team plays, I'm a big fan of school grades when I watch a game. One team plays an A+ game and one team plays a C- game. Yeah, we're not good enough to play C- games, particularly on the road against a good team. That's kind of what I saw today. I saw a team that came out ready to play, that came out executing. Everything the critics were worried about all offseason with us showed up today. So it's going to fuel that. I don't really care, but they're going to say we miss our coordinators, particularly if the Bears play well tomorrow night and put up yards and points. They're going to say, that's it. I don't agree. I will say this. This is not the best version of the Detroit Lions. This is not a representative version of the 2025 Detroit Lions, in my opinion. That's the version we got today. The Packers were the better team. They executed better. They played better. They won the game, right? And I'm cool with that, right? Because I know who Dan Campbell is. I know they're going to go back and they're going to fix stuff. Whatever that means, they're going to fix it. But I have no doubt we're going to see much better versions of the Lions as we go through this season. But if you're one of those people who looks and goes, see, that's who they are, you're just different than me. You can take one data point, form your opinion, and say, this is the 2025 Detroit Lions. Good. Please do that. I'm going to enjoy seeing that. But no doubt the better team won today. There wasn't a single moment in this game that I thought the Lions were better. There was not a single moment in this game where there was a question who the better team was. And that's okay. But I'm an optimist. You guys know that. So I'll just say plenty of work to do. That's where I go with it. There's plenty of work to do. You know, the real test comes next week. The real thing is, how do you bounce back from something like that? We got so comfortable only losing 3 games last year. I think we forgot what it was like to get beat, right? And I think it's fine. People can freak out there, and there'll be. You can listen to Sports Talk Radio all tomorrow afternoon, and you'll get all that. I'm not here for it. So I'll do a little recap of the game. As I saw the game going on, what popped back up into my mind immediately. The first drive, it was no pressure. They're not getting pass pressure. And I think I was texting my friend Art saying they may have to scheme up pressure. And what I meant was maybe blitzes, maybe send corners, maybe some zone drop-offs, maybe a different way, right? And Andy, we're cool, but if you talk about Jared Goff running, our friendship's going to end quickly. I don't buy the running quarterback thing. I don't blame Jared Goff because he can't run, because he's really good at almost everything else. Andy dropped a comment about Goff running. He might be trolling me because he knows how I feel about this, or not. I don't know. Jared Goff's inability to run is not why they lost the game today. That's just my opinion. But, when you see them converting, I think they converted 4 third downs on the first drive alone. Every time they got a third and 12, third and 6, third and 9, didn't matter. And the reason was we couldn't get any pressure. Love had plenty of time, and that guy's good enough that if you give him time, he will pick you apart. He has demonstrated that. And then there was a really dumb Brian Branch penalty. It didn't make sense to me. But I was overwhelmed early with a sense of, wow, we were not getting any pressure, and they're easily converting. And then when we got the ball, I think we went 3 and out on the first drive, long second drive that ended in a field goal, if I'm not mistaken. But I also saw what looked like rust. Just they look rusty. And I don't even like that term, but it brought up the preseason question to me, right? And I thought there was a drive down 10-0 in the second quarter. I remember texting, I think my brother or Art, we got to get some points out of this drive. And oh, that was when they got the field goal. Yeah. So they had scored on back-to-back drives, touchdown, field goal after we went 3 and out in our first drive. So down 10-0, I felt like we had to get some points. And they did. They got 3 points. But then the Packers came down and it was 17-3. And I felt like, and by the way, I think there was a pick play on that touchdown to Jaden Reed, but whatever. I hate doing that. But truthfully, if you go back, I think there was a pick. Kenny will just tell you that Terrion Arnold's a bum. Terrion didn't play well before he got hurt, so I can't really push back on Kenny today, but maybe another day. He did get beat a couple of times quite easily. But at that point, when it's 17-3, 17-6, and in the third quarter, and we make a big play on defense. Derek Barnes comes in, makes a stop. They got a punt. Now we have the ball down 17-6 in the third. Still a game. And it was one of the ugliest possessions I saw. To Andy's point, the O-line wasn't good. You're right. The backfield was disappointing. I don't think there was a lot of creativity is the word I want to use in the play calling, and that's going to fuel Ben Johnson talk. I don't really give a damn about Ben Johnson. I won't talk about Ben Johnson. It just doesn't matter. What I didn't see was a sense of urgency. I didn't see an attack mode. I felt like the Lions were playing on their heels. The 17-6 game is not out of reach. You score a touchdown there, and it's 17-13 or 17-14, and you got a football game. And it's middle of the third quarter, and I felt like the play calling and the whole execution, I don't do body language of the guys. They just weren't executing. Goff felt indecisive in his throws. And why is J-Mo running a 4-yard sit-down route? It's Jameson Williams. You don't need him running a sit-down route. What are we doing? So some of that stood out to me. But really the game-changing moment, if there was one, because I've already conceded that at every moment in that game, the Packers were the better team. They were playing better. They were executing. They were playing smarter. They were more creative. In every way, they were the better team. But that moment at 17-6 in the third quarter, when he always throws ducks, Andy. Jared Goff doesn't throw tight spirals. That's not his thing. He gets the ball there most of the time. 17-6, to me, the pivotal point in the game was in the third quarter. The first play, Anzalone drops an interception. I like Alex Anzalone. Alex Anzalone would look you in the eye and say, I should have made that catch. Right? It is so important for momentum at that moment, because if you get that interception and you're in their zone with the football, you're probably going to get some points. You're going to get at least 3, but maybe you can get that touchdown that hits the switch. And you got a 17-13, 17-14 type game, late third. It's a whole different game, right? It's a whole different game. That Anzalone drop was, to me, the biggest play of the game. The interception Goff threw so early in the game, I don't think it killed you. Killed some momentum, took at least 3 points off the board. The Anzalone play, and then when you follow it up with a Branch pick 6 that doesn't count because of 2, well, the 1 brought it back, right? If he gets the interception and then they call the Hutch play, we still have the ball. I saw the replay, and the Rock Ya-Sin penalty to me was cheesy. Man, I think that was the moment of the game. That was the moment where we had the opportunity to make that big defensive play. And my brother had just said, need a big defensive play, right? And I think that at that moment in the game, it's middle of the third, you had a shot. That game was 17-6. You got the ball in their territory, maybe the red zone. It is a game, and you still can win it. And you don't get those. They go down, and then you just never really got off. You had a possession deep in your own zone that was, as Andy said, a shit show, right? You almost get a safety twice. Then it's just you look totally discombobulated. And so for me, the game boils down to the Packers looked ready to play from the start. They looked comfortable within themselves, within their scheme, very comfortable from start to finish. They made few mistakes penalty-wise, no turnovers. The better team won today. I don't have a problem telling you that right now the Packers are better than us. But I will also tell you this is one game. And if you want to form your opinion of this football team based on one game, I think that's a mistake. Andy's right. There's work to do on the O-line. I think there's work to do everywhere. Everywhere. I will say that the Tesla catch was a nice bright spot at the end of the game. It didn't matter. It was a fantastic catch. It's a what's that word? A harbinger. I think that kid's going to be special at some point in time. But man, that was a nice catch. They've got work to do. And I think they'll do it. I'm not really worried about them. That's just not how I do it. It's not me. So all right, we're going to do 3 questions. Okay. All right. Let's get the first one. Oh, the blame pie. So for those who've never listened, there is this pie chart when you try and figure out all the reasons for something happening, and they do a pie chart and they give a percentage. We call it blame pie. Not my invention. I stole it from another show, but I'm sure they weren't the first to do it. Like the blame pie is the reason for the loss. And this one gets easy because there's a lot of pie to go around. Everybody gets some. I start with the rust, the slow start, because a home team on opening day can grab you quickly and get momentum if you don't start fast. And that's what happened today. That goes on Dan Campbell. There's no 2 ways around it. My personal opinion is could be preseason, could be something else, but that goes on the head coach. My guess is he already took blame for the slow start. You can't do it. The lack of pressure on the quarterback is a piece of pie. That goes to the defense coordinator, Kelvin Shepard. If you can't get it rushing 4 or 5, you have to get creative. And you have to do that last Tuesday or Wednesday. You have to decide if this isn't working, I'm going to do that. They never got pressure all day. And if you have to sell out, and maybe there's film that says, oh, they sold out on this play and Kenny's boy Terry Arnado got beat. Maybe. I don't recall if they blitzed on that play or not. Maybe there's some other play where you sold out and he had his tight end once, but he overthrew him. Maybe you can look at the film and say selling out, blitzing in these other creative, schematic ways doesn't work. Doesn't work. Maybe. That's the work they have to do. I hated the offense today. I hated it in every aspect. I hated it. That goes on John Morton, right? First game. I don't think it was jitters. I don't know what it was. They got to go back and fix it. I don't think they ever got into a rhythm. They had 2 drives, the second and third drives. They moved the ball. They got to the red zone and didn't finish. That's going to burn you. As the season goes on, that is really going to burn you. You have to find a way to convert third downs. And when you get to the red zone, you got to put the ball in the end zone. You got to put the ball in the end zone, right? The question Andy's throwing at me now, and I know what he's doing. I see what you're doing, Andy. You're not going to get me badmouth Jared Goff. No, I will say that Goff didn't look like he was in rhythm. And to your point, Andy is, I think he's actually talking about the offensive line, particularly the interior. And I saw continuity things, right? Where those guys have to talk and communicate. They have to pass off who's blocking who. And I saw at least 3 times that the guys point out, oh, wait, Ratledge went the wrong way. Mahogany went the wrong way. They were supposed to block this guy and they didn't. Those things can be coached up. They don't worry me a lot. We knew this was going to be a point. When we talked in the preseason podcast, and I said, F. Ben Johnson, which I still say. My real concern was the interior of the offensive line. And I think this is the point. I think Andy's point is this. You tell me if I'm wrong. If you don't give Goff protection, he's not the same guy. He's just not. And I think you can say that about any quarterback in the league, with the possible exception of Lamar and the guy in Buffalo whose name escapes me, Josh Allen, right? Obviously Mahomes, right? There's not a whole lot of guys who, if you say their protection consistently breaks down, they still perform. They overcome that. Because then you just get into this whole conversation about running quarterbacks that I am simply unwilling to have. The data doesn't support it. It just doesn't. If you go from Steve Young to Jalen Hurts last year, the data says a statue who's a good thinker and who processes information well, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Tom Brady, there is Troy Aikman. There's a list of these guys who could not run, who did not have even escapability, right? And I don't count Mahomes as running. I think Mahomes has escapability. So I don't really engage in the conversation about if Goff could just run, everything would be okay. It's not. I think Andy's point slightly different, which is if we don't improve the interior protection, Goff's not mobile enough to be successful. I think there's a degree of Goff's got to get his rhythm in John Morton's offense, timing-wise. I saw some spots that made sense. That looks like the Jared Goff I know and love, but I don't ever feel like today he got comfortable. And I think it's contributions all over. They came out slow. I think the interior offensive line made some mistakes. I think play calling wasn't creative enough for my liking. And I don't think Goff was completely in rhythm. So Andy's not wrong, but if he keeps coming for Jared Goff running the ball, we're going to have a problem because he's never going to be able to run the ball. My only point, Andy, is Jared Goff is who he is. I contend as a thinker, processor of knowledge, he's top 5 in the league. I will say that there are probably tweaks to the system he's been running the whole time here, and he might need a minute to catch up. Maybe his coordinator needs a minute to figure some things out. But the blame pie has a lot of pieces. Dan Campbell gets a piece for the slow start. Shep gets a piece for the inability to get pressure. I think John Morton gets a piece for the lack of creativity in the play calling. Goff gets a piece, and the interior of the offensive line absolutely gets a piece. You could give a small piece to Anzalone for one play if that's what you do. Special teams didn't play well. Tiny piece going to special teams. So my answer to that question is it's a big pie and there's a lot of pieces. Next question. Okay, down 17-3 at halftime. Where was your mindset? I think that understanding how this podcast goes, if you haven't figured it out in the first 25 minutes of the podcast and you've never listened before, I am an optimist. I am an optimist in life. And you take this football team and multiply it by 1,000. So I think it was still a lot of football left because that's generally how I feel most of the time as an optimist, unless you're just buried. And 17-3 was not insurmountable because I knew we got the ball to start the third quarter. I knew that Goff had played a clean first half, but for one really bad throw. Even if the stats weren't built up and they hadn't found the end zone, I thought they moved the ball on 2 of their 3 possessions in the first half. I wasn't totally comfortable that the offense was, what is the term that somebody texted me? It might have been open up or something like that. We needed the offense to probably just go downfield more or try more. And I was struggling with watching J-Mo run sit-down routes, and I don't think that should even be in his route tree. But mostly the offensive line was concerning. And the fact that they got 2 drives well into Green Bay territory and they didn't finish. They only came away with 3 points. My biggest concern was that. Green Bay had 3 possessions and 17 points. We had 3 possessions and 3 points. That is about execution. And over and above everything else, I knew because I sent a text to somebody, if we don't find a way to get pressure on Jordan Love, this is going to be a struggle. Now, the Lions came out, I think stopped the Packers on 2 drives. But then when those plays needed to be made, the third downs for us, they got off the field. The Anzalone drop, the Jarrett was holding the ball too long at times. He looked like he didn't, which he doesn't generally do. He looked like he wasn't sure where to go with the football. And again, to Andy's point earlier, he didn't have the kind of time I think he had been used to. So concerns, they were pretty straightforward, pretty standard. We're not getting pressure. We don't look crisp on offense, and we haven't finished in their territory. You got to get in the end zone. We had a streak of 20-point games that got broken. We had, you look at the numbers for Gibbs and St. Brown and JMO, it just wasn't crisp. And the feeling an hour after the game is that belongs to the coordinator. That's on the coordinator. I don't look at the all 22s. I don't really know. But at halftime, I wasn't concerned. I watched this team last year dig out of worse situations. I watched this team fight to the end. So I expected them to come out and continue to fight. I felt that if they could get points, particularly a touchdown, on the opening possession of the second half, it would be a whole different ball game. It didn't turn out that way, but I guess the question is really about at what point do I bail, right? And Andy's got jokes. We haven't won a game since January. It's good. That's good. I like that one. Yeah, there is a 16 more games left, right? I am of the belief that the culture of this organization, which to me is the most important piece, this head coach, they will fix the things that need to be fixed. I think the person who's going to hurt the most from all this might be the Chicago Bears, because there's a very real chance there is a massive can of whoop ass waiting for the Bears next week on a short week, right? Right now there are people who have already given up. You're going to hear SOL tomorrow. You're going to hear this team isn't, and it takes a lot for me to get there. It takes a lot for me to get there. I think this was a good team we played. They played really well. We did not. And when that happens, you will lose the football game. And it's not even lose. They got beat today. I'm not taking anything from the Packers. Packers played really, really well. I'm not taking anything from them. So, but at halftime, I wasn't concerned. We don't, like Andy said, never bail. I never bail. I watched to the last play. And we were rewarded. All right, one more. With the offensive performance, are you ready to hear all the Ben Johnson? I think it's a matter of, if I'm ready. It doesn't matter. I'm smart enough to know what's going to happen. I think the media at every level is going to do their thing, right? The mainstream, like the 4-letter devil, they're gonna show a highlight package, and it's going to be both of the Jordan Love touchdowns. They're going to tell you Jordan Love is the best quarterback in the North, and they're going to show the Micah sack, because the Micah sack gives them a way to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. And that's all. I don't care. I will bet you. No, they'll show the Tesla touchdown. They have to. It was too good a catch. So their whole highlight package is going to be Packer touchdown, Micah sack, Tesla touchdown. That'll be the highlight package. And like I said, mostly it'll give them an avenue to bring up the Dallas Cowboys. I don't worry about the mainstream. Like, I've done too many times how I feel about the 4-letter devil. They're just a different brand, and I don't really care. The local media is going to do, particularly the radio, they're going to do what they always do, what they're really, really good at. They're going to evoke fear, right? There's a group of them that are going to tell you, this is who the Lions are. Get ready for a long, shitty season. They're a 9-8 team, potentially going wild card. And then there's going to be the guys who are sensible, but they're going to raise questions. They're going to tap into your emotions. How concerned are you? Fill in the blank. How concerned are you? Should we be concerned? And if the Bears play really well tomorrow night, put up a lot of points, put up a lot of yards, Then Tuesday is when the Ben Johnson talk starts. So I personally, I think your question was, am I ready? I don't really care. Ben Johnson doesn't work here anymore. I don't really care. Nothing that Ben Johnson does, except for 2 days a year, matters to me. I just don't. And that's not bitterness. I think last week I dropped an F-bomb on him. It's not personal. It's no different. The only guy ever that I've rooted for once they left the Lions is Matthew Stafford. You leave my team, and you could be one of my. I loved Darius Slay when he was here. Now my brother hated his guts, but I really liked Darius Slay when he left. Okay, I'm not mad at him, and I think he felt the same way. Wish you luck, right? He went and did what he did, and I think he got a ring. Maybe, I don't know. I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that. Stafford is the one dude I kept rooting for. I always like Matthew Stafford. I always will. But other than that, when you leave my team, and that's every team, right? And I don't care. I don't care anymore. It's not that I'm mad. I'm indifferent. I care about the Bears twice a year, maybe 3 times if they're good enough to make the playoffs. But, it looks like Andy's rooting for the Vikings tomorrow night. I really don't. I'm not even going to watch that game. I'm not watching that game. I got other stuff to do. But the Ben Johnson talk won't bother me. So let me get back to the question. I think the question assumes I'm going to be bothered. No, I already know these people are coming out of the woodworks. I know what the locals are going to say. I know what their callers are going to say on the radio. That dude who cares more about being right than his football team being good is going to say, see, I called you 2 weeks ago. Remember my call? I'm the guy who called you and told you that they were going to miss Ben. I'm the guy who called you and told you that this offensive line wasn't good enough. I'm the guy who got on a podcast and said, I still see 12 wins. And you can feel what you want to feel. I don't lead with my feelings. I'm leading with data. I think it's still a very talented football team. I think this is a very well coached football team. I still think they win 12 games. Did I say 12-5 or 13-4? They might still go 13-4. I think you saw a version of the Lions today that the Ben Johnson lovers, or the people who claim to be Lions fans but have more fun hating on them when they lose than when they win. I don't even know what that question is, Andy. I have a phone number. I should probably explain. It sounds like I don't like sports talk radio because I mention them all the time and it's generally negative. Truth is this. There is a show in the midday that I love. There are certain guys on sports talk radio who are really good at their job. I just hate it because I know what their job is. And they're really, really good at getting dumb people to call the radio station and say dumb shit. They're really good at it, though. I give them credit. I just hate it. I hate the dumb takes. I hate the dumbass Dans, those guys that are going to call in tomorrow and tell you they knew it. And they have decided based on one game, they know what the Lions are this year. Because that's all it takes. That's all they need is one game to know what the Lions are. And I'm not that guy. I'll never be that guy. And I don't ever bash the concept of sports talk radio, the industry, or even the hosts. And I don't like most of them. It is the callers. It's the because there used to be a dude that used to pop into this podcast and make his comments. And then the Lions went 15-2. I ain't seen this guy in 2 years. Right. He'll probably pop back up this year at some point. If we were to go on a losing streak or we fall short of our goals, he'll pop back up because he's one of those guys. That's when he comes up. He pops his head out of the hole to say dumb shit or crazy shit when it's convenient. We went 15-2 last year. I didn't see this dude. He didn't pop in. He didn't say anything. Right. I was shocked he didn't pop up in January. But back to your question. Ben Johnson talk won't bother me. If they do well, I don't care. And I got friends who are Bears fans, really good friends who are Bears fans. And I'll be happy for them if they do well. I only care about them twice a year. That's the kind of fan I am. People say, you're a big football fan? Nope. I'm a Detroit Lions fan. I don't watch 8 games every weekend. I watch 2. I watch Michigan State and I watch the Lions. And all you blue people, don't be mad. Today's not the day for that. We're all Lions fans today. We leave that for another day. We get one day a year where we get to do that. Right. But so as far as Ben Johnson, I don't really care. He doesn't bother me. Their talk doesn't bother me. I'm not worried about, if you ask me if play calling is the biggest issue, I actually would say no. I think getting pass pressure is the biggest issue. I did see some timing issues with the offense today and some things that didn't look like they were clicking or in sync, but that's okay. That's okay. The pass pressure thing I think is real, and we got to figure that out. And those people are going to come out. You should have got Micah. You should have got Myles Garrett, even though he wasn't available. You should have got Max Crosby, even though he wasn't available. You should have re-signed Zadarius Smith. He signed with the Eagles. Oh no. Okay, whatever. Whatever, right? There's too much talent on this team to take one game and say this is who they are, offensively and defensively. I think they'll fix it, guys. That's my short answer. So okay, that happened. One game. We will be fine. The world's not ending. There'll be a game next week, and we'll be here for it. So thank you, Andy. Thank you, everybody who tuned in or was listening. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope you know that this is not the place to come for the negativity. I don't really do that thing. That's not it. So I got somebody to reach out to, apparently. Appreciate the positive energy. And we'll be back next week to do it again after we dust off the Bears. And yep, I'm calling my shot. We absolutely will. All right, everybody have a good night. We'll see you next week.